Tenmei pressed play on his iPod with headsets as he left his apartment. With music and beats of guitar in sync with the drums started enriching his ears and mood. He jumped from beside the door to the front of it in a rhythmic fashion. He closes the door with a loud thud, mimicking the symphony's sharp turn in the song. As he took stairs and scaled them down in motion that lifted him higher after each step, he was jumping down the stairs while singing in sync with the music. Ah ha ha ha, staying alive, ah ha ha ha, staying alive. He continued dancing throughout his way out of apartment to the bus stop. He walked a bit towards right and then towards left as the music shifted beats, his grooving to songs while attaining his delightful routine of going office in such ease was about to switch to a deadly routine. Out of breath while singing and jumping through his way out to the stop, he snapped his both fingers to the last few minutes of the song. His phone buzzed. It was a mail notification informing him he had been mapped to a project called CPL. He had to attend the induction after 1 hour. He continued reading with disappointment to learn that project required all its resources on some client location compulsorily for all its working hours. A bus he usually took went by, and he had to helplessly miss it, since from now on he had to board a new bus to a new location which was hours and hours away than the usual destination. He finally took bus after 15 minutes and started listening to his old song collection of the Beatles and Simon and Garfunkel. Amidst the silence between two tracks, he overheard his passenger ranting, who uses an iPod in this day and age of smartphones. He paid no attention to it. His journey ended at a brand new building with boards and hauntings of CPL controlling future. He entered the single building which had 3 floors. At the entrance, the receptionist took Tenmei's details and smiled, informing him he was the only one getting inducted today. From rich music to boring presentation of what a company aspires to do but never does, how this company creates a different environment for employees and blah blah. As he entered the room at first floor where the induction was held, he was stripped off his mobile phone to the client confidentiality policy. It was a huge room with ample of seats and systems. He took the first one in intention of getting off early. The system asked him for his credentials and then prompted him to continue watching the presentation for 1 hour straight with no breaks and interruptions. It didn't even allow him to pause the damn thing. At the end there was supposed to be one question. He had to answer it correctly to get inducted. The video began with 3 white dudes telling him how and when CPL got formed. Strangely, there was no audio in this presentation. He found a headphone near the desk, but it was of no use, as it didn't function. How lucky, he thought to himself. As he searched his bag, he found he had accidentally sneaked his iPod with a pair of his earphones. Tenmei had a choice to use the earphones for his presentation or listen to songs. Without any hesitation, he chooses the latter. Meanwhile, the screen had started flickering from 3 white dudes to a completely dark screen with 3 groovy lights reflecting some rhythm. Suddenly, the sound had started imploding from speakers, but Tenmei was too busy with his music exploration. He found this amazing song by Redbone, Come and Get Your Love. He couldn't stop playing it on loop. In no time, the induction video was complete. Now the screen displayed waves of 3 lights like sound wave. He'd mistaken it for some screensaver or something. The screen switched back from the glitches to a white page with a big question containing massive words like life, change, future, and commitment, with just 2 options: yes, no. Blindly, he ticked yes, and he was allocated a cubicle in a room. The details were displayed on the screen. He exited induction hall, where he found his phone in a tray among the chargers and various wires with no security like prior. He took the liberty to take back his phone and continued towards the cubicle. As Tenmei hit next on his playlist, the song came on which motivated him, and he started marching with his knees rising higher and fists swinging back and forth in rhythmic motion as he sang to himself in an empty corridor. But I would walk 500 miles, and I would walk 500 more. The song was in fact another blast from past, I'm Gonna Be by the Proclaimers. It came out 11 years after Stayin' Alive by Bee Gees. Soon, Tenmei reached his office and started searching his cubicle. As he completed his 500 steps towards his cubicle, he could see how everyone was working silently and were totally focused. Even a pin drop could disturb these workaholics. Tanmay was disappointed. In a world full of magic and music, these life beings choose to work in such dull, lifeless manner. He felt unbearable to tolerate such silence, as he was used to listening to music every second. It was only after he unplugged his earphones he realized there was a soft, strange music playing across the whole office floor. It echoed at every corner and reached every person's ears. He hated it instantly. He saw no one being bothered by it, and it worried him even more, as he was the only one with such distaste for this melody. He was distracted from his train of thoughts as he saw a girl sitting beside her. She wore a yellow kurta and had long hair. Tanmay could definitely use a friend in this hell of a place. It took no time for his mind to jump from a friend to a constant companion for music, sharing a song via an audio jack splitter. He could almost imagine her snapping to the beats of the songs he would suggest her. They could be the only ones grooving in the corridors of this office floor. In an instant, he said, "Hi, I am Tanmay. I am new here and you are." She pointed robotically to a poster stuck at her cubicle with her name, Tanya. The poster was captioned with branding of CPL working solemnly soulfully in solitude of CPL. He had lost all his hope, and it worsened when he switched on his system to find everything worked just fine. He found a same pair of headphones like the one in induction hall, and this time they worked. It played the same tune of soft music that Tanmay hated. He looked out to watch for someone or something interesting, only to find a bunch of Excel files, Word files, and other documents being worked by the overly enthusiastic employees. He was disgusted by the fact some had even headphones on. He logged into his system to find a tutorial on ways to get started. His first day had devastated him. He was again faced with dilemma whether to listen to his own music or actually try to work. The music that was playing across the whole floor irritated him and annoyed his ears. It gave him a mild headache. It was almost like someone forcing him to do something. Finally, the music stopped, but only to be followed by a loud beeping alarm kind of music. The office people started rising up and started to head out. At first it was 10 to 20 people, and then more, and then some more. It was like an organized rollout of emptying the floor in case of some fire drill or something. His concerns became severe when he found people moving out within a single line, like an assembly or something. Soon the sequence of people had reached his row of people. He asked Tanya, "Where are we supposed to go? Some meeting." She took a minute and replied with her pretty yet pale face, "Food." She was emotionless, and so was the queue, moving in perfect coordination and sync. It was sharp 1:30, and he realized this their way of taking a lunch break. The sequence of people moving further synced more as they tried to smile one by one. It creeped out Tanmay. The music that played on floor before had stopped in this office room in favor of this loud alerting beep, but it had transitioned into the corridor, and that's where people started moving. The people were actually following music. He wondered whether this was some sick sort of prank on him, but for this to be a prank, how could it be on a level of official males' officials' projects? He wasn't that big of identity to be pranked at this extent. Anyhow, he moved out to see an empty, vast floor. Even their footsteps, their body movement aligned in such perfection that it had Tanmay convinced this was not a mere prank. They were being controlled, he thought. His horrifying thought was interrupted by the guard who took his phone before entering induction. He rushed towards Tanmay screaming, "Mayday! Mayday! Not in control. 1/200, not in control." Tanmay turned the other way around and started running away as theories of what blizzard thing was happening started flooding his mind. It was not too wild to think that bloody induction was what got these people off their minds, and the music was what instructed them to work religiously all day. He ran back into the office floor and ducked down under the nearest cubicle. He found a headphone on floor and gripped both the ear cups tightly as the guard approached him to seize him. He drove the headband of the earphone between two legs of guard. Guard screamed in pain and grabbed his crotch to fall on the other side. Tanmay stood up to rush out of this hellhole, while the guard cried he should have been reported after induction. He was never controlled. He took back his phone. Room 399. His heart had pounded while his mind wandered. How could the thing that moved him every day could be used to control people against their will? He had to check room 399, and he rushed towards the third floor. This time the stairs felt heavy as he climbed them. There was no rhythm this time. This time there was fear of unknown. He reached third floor to find only a large single room numbered 399. He stormed inside to find the same three dudes wearing white lab coats like the one he had saw during start of induction. He was immediately drawn aback on what he had just witnessed. Large computers with modulators controlling the various aspects of sounds. Three of them rushed towards Tanmay as he retreated again. In the most dreadful voice and tone, he heard one of them singing as they chased him, "How can you?" Followed by another equally disastrous voice, "Who are you?" And finally followed by unison of three voices, "Why are you? You." These voices tried sounding like music. Perhaps this was the only time that music had thrown Tanmay off his edge. This had appalled his mind. What the hell is happening, he thought to himself as he rushed back from the same stairs he took, while the three odd people kept singing the same question again and again. As he approached the second floor, he saw the same security guard limping with headphones on his head. His head was tilted towards right, and then it tilted towards left as his smile spread across its face, as wide as it revealed his teeth like a zombie. It was like a bad dancing zombie. As we treaded down further in extreme fear, he heard the thud of bodies following, and the singing shifted from questions to a song of pain. Off was being sang by all of them now. He reached first floor where he could see a huge ground where all the employees ate food in coordination, one bite after another. They even had same food and chewed in coordination. They were being monitored by another bunch of guards. As he heard the footsteps approaching again, he knew going down further would entrap him from both sides. So he decided to take the lift at first floor and travel back up. Second floor was not a good choice because of the guard and three dudes there. So he had no option but to go to the third floor, and so he did. He rushed to the only room 399 and found a video clip of receptionist who took her at entrance playing. In the video, she could be seen repeating the same again and again. "You are being inducted, please." She smiled and repeated this again and again on a loop. Tanmay was horrified by the thought that this place could be full of robots, and no matter what, there is nothing that could be done to throw these people out of their trances. Living or not, he just had to stop this madness somehow. He saw hundreds of buttons on the huge system, which made this happen. He again heard someone singing and rushing in towards the room. The guard opened the door and jumped on Tanmay to stop him. In the very second he pressed 2 to 3 buttons that were labeled Truth, Tyranny, Trust. Suddenly, and not surprisingly enough, the whole building's speakers burst into a mix of sounds being played by a guitar, flute, and heavy bass drums. It almost made everyone's ear bleed with the intensity of sound and growl in pain. At the corner of one screen, he could see where all the employees were having lunch to throw their food in midair and start flexing. Some started dancing, crying, and exercising. As he put aside the guard who jumped him, he realized he was completely silent, kind of like paused and blank. He stared into the ceiling of the room with no reaction. Not sure what had happened, Tanmay stood up and moved out of the room to find the three people with white coats murmuring something. The first said the truth is they control you. They mesmerize you. 8 hours, 8 weeks, every day. The second one cried and lied down the first one a slap and said we trusted you. The third one started hitting them, both of them, and said you tyrants, you bastards, you said you wouldn't control me. It was like a mental hospital where the doctors were the patients that needed the help most. Tanmay had failed to stop this madness, while the music grew unbearable, louder that he had covered his ears. He could sense the blood or some liquid rushing out of his eardrums. He rushed back in room for one last time, hoping to stop the loud music. He couldn't find any controls to do so. He pressed more buttons, only to worsen the sound far more. There was a big microphone symbol on a button. Tanmay pressed it, and the whole music stopped. People froze. It was dead silent, or either Tanmay had lost his sensibility to hear anything. He had stopped everyone, but kind of switched them off at the same time. He was convinced these beings were robots. Still, he had some hope they weren't. He thought that if a humane voice were to touch their ears, then maybe, just maybe, they could act naturally. So he sang on top of his lungs, "Ah ha ha ha, staying alive, ah ha ha ha, staying alive," and immediately after collapsed as he heard his own voice booming across the whole building. He woke up by the alarm tone of his phone the next day. "Here comes the sun, do-do-do. Here comes the sun, and I say it's all right." He rejoices as he still possesses the ability to listen such lovely music again. He goes back to sleep to rest. He later wakes up to find himself in a hospital bed among the hundreds and hundreds of other employees who were being controlled in some way. He finds a newspaper and some fruits kept across his bed. He picks up the newspaper and reads on about the CPL controlling your future life. A batch of 20 to 25 people were tortured into hypnotism with 1 hour of loop-back music produced by 3 brothers, also founders of CPL. They intend to fully mind control them, as they hated their employees wasting timing and working less efficiently. They wanted to maximize productivity and reduce wastage of time while on company's ground. So they robbed their employees of free will as soon as they joined by induction, and controlled them for 8 hours of their work time with minimal breaks and food provided. They controlled everything: how much they ate, drank, and even when they went to washrooms. Controlling their habits, timings, schedules, and body. The induction is key to make this happen for everyone. However, there was one exception where one of the employee may choose to not listen to this loopy music of induction and do something else. This music was further to be used to trigger emotions in the employees, and the offbeat, monotonous singing of one-person voice broke them out, this hypnotism of being controlled.